the whole reason why I do these Friday conversations is because I get a chance to learn myself. The questions that I ask, people wonder, how do you prepare them? And for the first time in my life, I'm actually preparing the questions. So Susan, you should know that I've got about 20 questions. I'll get to some of them with you. But there's something I need to tell people who are on this, and you'll be happy to know that this is a very, very good turnout, is what you did for me when my father passed away, and it's now almost 25 years ago.
I know it.
And it happens, it was suddenly, and I was absolutely destroyed. And you got into my life, and you and I didn't even know each other. I mean, we'd met a couple times.
I just knew what you were going through because I'd gone through it.
But you got into my life. You helped me through it. I'm here today because of you. I always try to say thank you for those. But you touched me in a way, and you explained to me what was going to happen and how I was going to feel. And I want you to know that not only did you make a difference in me, but I've tried to pay it forward ever since that time to help other people the way that you helped me. So I want people to know that your voice still scares me.
You
still intimidate me, but you were so kind.
I've been a fan of yours forever. And, you and I are from the old school. You started out with some folks on the conservative side, and I was on the liberal side. But I think we've always believed that, people and the lines that connect people and the values we share, and patriotism being first and foremost. Just telling me about the pictures behind you. I mean, what's been so sad for me about the last 4 years is how people stopped talking to each other, and people stopped having dinner with each other. And, it just got so ugly that we couldn't disagree about politics without falling into this hole. And it's really sad, isn't it, Frank, how we're getting out of it? I mean, that this should be the end of the election. I mean, you tell me, you know more about what's going on right now than I do, but what's the latest?
So the latest, only because it's changing every hour, is that the commission is giving up on the debate next week, that Joe Biden has announced that he's going to do a town hall and take questions in Philadelphia. Donald Trump says he's probably going to do something in Washington, D.C. And this essential town hall debate, which is the one that I love, because the questions are unscripted. You don't know what the audience is going to ask, and they're not framed as a gotcha. These are real people with real concerns. They talk. It's the best debate of all. And the host of that debate was due to be Steve Scully from C-SPAN, who I have known for almost 30 years. Honest, decent, filled with integrity. And I say this to everyone because we got Democrats and Republicans on here. We've got hardcore Trump people, hardcore Biden people. To Donald Trump and his people who are going after Steve Scully, shame on you. The idea that just because he interned with Biden, he wasn't supposed to intern with Biden. He was supposed to intern with John Hines. He ended up with Biden by accident. He had pitched to intern in the White House, and that got shut down. And that was to George W.
Can I tell you a secret? Stop.
Yes.
Susan Estrich, Democrat, interned in the White House of Richard Nixon. Now, cut me off. I didn't volunteer for it. I was, assigned, right? I got the thing that said Executive Office of the President. I thought, me? I thought that was utterly ridiculous. I mean, this has gone wild.
And they chose some incredible hosts. Susan Page, who's been an outstanding reporter for the last 30 years. Chris Wallace, who in the last 4 years, his debate in 2016 was the best of that cycle.
Terrific.
Great people. And it was a shit show. I can use that language on this here. I won't get in trouble. In fact, as you were watching the debate, let's get into this conversation because we can each build each other up for an hour and we still won't be done. Over the course of that 90 minutes, what was your reaction to that first debate?
At first, it was utter disbelief, okay? You and I have both trained people for debates. I have sat in all those holding rooms. I have known the stunts in advance. For the first few minutes, I thought, okay, he's going in hard. But when it didn't stop, when it just kept going, disbelief and a recognition that this was not going to be a debate. This was going to be Donald Trump ranting and raving for the American people. And I guess that showed his character. I mean, what did you think? You must have thought it was unbelievable.
Couldn't believe it. I was sitting next to someone in the military who had been a wounded warrior. And I kept looking at him, someone who I did not know. I had my phone because I am tweeting while the debate's going on. I'm in the room. I'm in the chamber. And I'm watching this. And I'm trying to respond to emails. I'm trying to respond to texts. I'm responding to journalists. I'm actually moderating a focus group of my own undecided voters in the room just verbally chatting, so I know how they're reacting to everything. And I keep turning to the guy next to me saying, what the hell? Now I'm going to share something with you that nobody knows. There was a moment, and I have to be careful because Frank Farrakhan will never let me into a room again if I acknowledge this, but I'm going to anyway. Susan, I actually thought of standing up and saying, shut the fuck up and answer the question. I was so angry. I can't believe I just used the F word. Okay.
But everybody was angry, Frank. That was the other piece. Everybody was angry because this was the 1 minute, the one night we had all sat down and we were going to watch what might have been the most important debate of a gazillion years. And instead, the President of the United States, I'm sorry, and I try to be fair, but didn't have enough respect for us. Forget about Biden. Forget about Chris Wallace. The people watching to just answer the questions. I mean, I know Biden is rehearsed to look in the camera and then you look this way, and we all know that. But I thought Trump's disrespect for the people watching was stunning to the point that I read your focus group and people were mad, right?
Yes. So no, you're now the strategist. I'm going to make you the strategist for Trump first and then the strategist for Biden because I think we will have one more debate. Put your independent, your nonpartisan hat on, and I'm going to ask you about some of the other people you've debate prepped. Mm-hmm. If Donald Trump turned to you and said, you and I are going to talk for 5 minutes, Susan, what do I do in that final debate? What would you tell Trump to do strategically?
Apologize. He needs to apologize. He needs to reconnect with people, not apologize to Biden, but apologize and say his passion was so great, something. He needs a narrative that allows people to trust him again. Because quite frankly, between the pandemic, his debate performance, the hospital, the out of the hospital, who was there, all this confusion, another debate. No, I'm not sure we'll have a third, by the way. I'm not sure at all, given how this seems to be spreading. But I think, at least for his own dignity, he's got to apologize to people. That wasn't fair. We had a right, everybody had a right to hear about Medicare and schools and pandemics and all the things people actually care about. It's a terrible time in America.
Okay, that's the opening. So he apologizes. I'm going to push you a little bit harder. Tell me something else that he should be doing that he wasn't doing that would be strategic and tactical and make a difference for Trump.
Trump's only hope is the economy, okay? His only hope, it seems to me, is I'm the guy who built the economy. You're scared to death about what's going on with the economy. Joe Biden has never run an economy. I'm ready to pull this country together and dig us out. What else? He's certainly not the guy who's going to solve the pandemic.
And by the way, Bruce Raymer says hello to you. He's watching you right now. I guess he's a friend of yours.
He is.
So one more for you. I'm not going to leave Trump yet. What should be his close? The very last moment that he has for the American people, and maybe it will be the last time that he and Biden are on the same stage. In that last minute, what would you tell Donald Trump to say?
Well, see, here's the thing. What I would tell him to say is what people have been telling him to say for 4 years. Behave like a president. thank people for the honor of having served them. Be Ronald Reagan, you know? I mean, Ronald Reagan could stand up for a moment and say, thank you for giving me the honor and the trust of serving you. And you would feel good about that, man. I just don't know that's in Donald Trump's heart. I think all he's going to say is, vote for me, I hate Biden, and we'll all lean back. What about you?
So,
You don't
for
answer
Trump,
my questions anymore.
I'll answer this now because this is a conversation. We're letting people in on it. It's basically you and I talking with significant CEOs and business types and political people. They get to listen in and ask questions on the side.
I'm seeing some of them while you talk.
Yes, this is the only chance that you and I actually get a chance to watch is when the other person is talking. I would have had Donald Trump deliver a speech to the American people, 10-minute speech when he got back to the White House after leaving Walter Reed. And I would have suggested that he's not the same man now that he was 72 hours ago. And I would have had him empathize and to say that we have not done enough and we are going to do a hell of a lot more. And I'm going to devote every possible resource in this country. See, his focus now.
Frank, I think I know a lot of people who would have thrown up if he did it. And those people are people who've lost family members already and would have looked at him and said, okay, Mr. President, so it took you having to get it. 200,000 people dying, not enough. Children dying, didn't matter. Senior citizens, who cared? But when you, Donald Trump, the maskless wonder, when you got it, see, I think at that moment, empathy doesn't, you got it, what, your wife got it, your friends got it. You got it because you guys were sloppy. And because you were sloppy, millions of others were sloppy. And because millions of others were sloppy, the rest of us are living in terror right now. I mean, it's just a hard one for him to get around. Do you think he has any chance of winning, Frank?
You just schooled me. You just put me in my place. This is awesome because you got to do it.
It's not that. It's not that. It's just that I know so many people.
Right.
And it's so offensive right now that, you know, if he changes on a dime, but tell me something, does he have a chance of winning yet?
No, he does not have a chance. There's only one debate. I said so yesterday on Bloomberg. In fact, I've got money. How can the division between him and Biden, the published polling and the private polling is too great for him to turn around. Because he can turn around Florida, he can turn around North Carolina, but he's also got to turn around Ohio. He's got to turn around Michigan. He's got to turn around Pennsylvania. He's got to turn around Wisconsin.
Pennsylvania is getting bigger and bigger. The other thing somebody mentioned on the side, and it's striking, is that this man paid $750 in taxes. And we have managed to stop talking about it in less than 3 days because we had a debate and then he got COVID. I mean, if ever this campaign returned to normal, there are a million unanswered questions still flying out there. Yes?
Okay, so that question came from Barry Porter. What do you do in that case? I'm going to put your Donald Trump hat back on again. That's what he paid. He's not challenging the facts. That's the amount that he paid. What do you say in that case when you get caught? You can't apologize. You can't say, hey, I took advantage of the tax code. Because that turns, I mean,
I heard somebody start explaining depreciation to me. And I thought, I've been a Harvard law professor and I'm not quite following this. Let's see. Who else is following this? I don't know about the holdover losses and the this and that. Look, it's one more thing. I assume there'll be independent ads going after it. I thought it was kind of tacky of the Trump people when the Biden people were taking down the attack ads and the Trump people were ramping them back up. You know, I will say this as a veteran of losing campaigns. There comes a time, it hasn't maybe yet to Trump yet, where it's not just important what the outcome is. It's important how it's done. And it's important to lose with dignity, if you believe that. I remember sitting with then Governor Jim Hunt of North Carolina, and I had money, all right? I had some DNC money, I had this money, and I sat with him and with Bill Clinton and Jim Blanchard on the phone, and we figured out, and with Dukakis' approval, of course, how to spread money across the country, money that I had as the presidential campaign, to make sure that vulnerable Democrats were winning in close races, so that even if we lost the presidential, we would do so without major damage to Congress and state legislatures. And I don't know if the Trump people are doing that. It's hard to believe that would be in Donald Trump's nature. But if he's going to lose this election, I sure as heck hope that we can have a dignified process, that it will not tear us all apart, that we'll come back together afterwards, and that he will respect the Constitution. Because tell me something, how do you explain that rant and rave the other day at his own aides? I didn't know what he was talking about.
What was that? I did not see that.
He was just ranting about his aides and let him down and blah, blah, blah. His own people he was attacking. And you just get the feeling that this guy he's probably a different person, but is he a well person? I mean, everybody I know who's gotten COVID in their 50s and 60s, not 70s, has taken some time to recover. They don't have to work the next day. They don't have oxygen on Saturday and show up at the office Monday. Right?
What would you expect to happen if Trump wins on election night and then the votes start to go against him? If you had to, as an operative, what would you expect, let's say 48 hours after the election? So there's still maybe 10 million votes by mail that have not been counted, and the two of them are dead even. Now, you know that many more of these votes by mail are going to be Democratic votes, maybe 2-1, maybe even 3-1, but they've not all been counted. What should we be looking for 24, 48, 96 hours after the election?
A lot of litigation, okay? A lot of people running to court in states where there are large numbers of ballots that haven't been counted, to ensure that no count will be finalized for that state until and unless every vote is counted. So what you'll see is some states will be called. California will be home sleeping. New York, ditto. But if there are close states, I expect you will see that the results will be held. Nobody's going to do, you and I are old enough to remember, Florida, okay? Nobody's going to make the mistake of calling a state and then having to pull back. So I think you're going to see elections are local. They aren't, from on high. They're people, they count the ballots or they have the computers. You're going to see people being careful before they certify. Now, I have to tell you, Frank, I think the way we're going to have a result election night. And I think we're going to have a result election night, and maybe I'm sentimental, but I think people want a clear and peaceful transition of power in this country. The president said he wanted it to go to the Supreme Court. He may be the only one. I clerked for Justice Stevens, and I remember talking to him about Bush v. Gore after that decision. And he said to me that no decision had done more to create disrespect for the United States Supreme Court than Bush v. Gore, because justices had no business selecting presidents. And whichever side, he happened to be a Republican appointee, but whichever side you were on was the Democratic side, it didn't matter. It's not the way the system should work. The system should work as you and I know. People go to the polls. We do our very best to count every ballot. We're not perfect, but we're good enough, just like jury trials. We elect a president. We have a dignified transition. I know you've seen the letter that George H.W. Bush left for Bill Clinton on his desk when he left office. Dear Bill, you're our country's president now, he said. We all are behind you. We all wish you luck. That's my America. And, whoever's the next president, as we like to say in speeches, we're in a terrible situation. I mean, you and I are lucky. Somebody pays for us to talk occasionally. But I know so many people who've been hit. I mean, we live in LA. I mean, this is the gig economy. I mean, I know so many people, master's degrees people are dropping off my Uber Eats, all right? People are really hurting. And whoever the next president is, it's going to have to be somebody who's going to have to pull people together. It's likely to be a Democratic Congress and a Democratic Senate. So the trick is we can't go too far, too fast, or we'll lose the country.
Okay, and this is a perfect segue to the Supreme Court. It was the issue that Senator Harris did not want to answer, and Vice President Pence put it to her and put it to her and put it to her a third time. You don't. So how should Senator Harris respond to that question?
Duck, probably. The Constitution doesn't say anything about 9 justices, okay? And in the early days, they fluctuated up and down until 1869, when Congress passed an act setting 9 as the number of justices. 9 is a very good number because it's an odd number. And also because in the way the court works, it takes at least 4 votes for an issue to be heard, which means 4 justices have to agree. And over the last, somebody will do their math better than me, over the last few hundred years, system has worked pretty well with one exception. And that, of course, was court packing, when FDR was unhappy that the court was striking down New Deal legislation. They were calling it federalism, but it was in truth, the battle over the scope of government regulation. And he announced that he was going to pack the court. For every justice over 70, he would name 1 more. FDR was a very popular president. Court packing was a huge failure, and rightly so. Look, Frank, I don't like the idea of my kids growing up with a court that is going to undo so many of the things I fought my lifetime to accomplish. But I like even less the idea that every time one side or the other side wins, we start playing court juggle, right? Court bingo, You've got 9, I'll go for 11, right? You got 2 of those and 2 of those. What about 12? How about 13? I'm a great believer in the stability of institutions of government. The Supreme Court doesn't have an army to enforce its decisions, okay? Its decisions are enforced because people respect them as the law of the land. And I think the less ambitious senators of either side do to manipulate a fundamental branch of government that has worked as it should for so many years is something we ought to be careful about. So what should Kamala do? Duck. The liberals are upset with reason because they're looking at a majority court. I've lived through a majority court on the other side. I've lived through one. I used to sit and smoke cigarettes with Justice Rehnquist in the old right-wing court. But in the long run, I'm not even sure that we're going to have a confirmation. I was going to ask you your view of that. The senators seem to be dropping like flies here and there. You get a state of no consensus in the country about anything, except we want this, as Ford would call it, this national nightmare should be over. So I'm not sure McConnell fighting his own battle back home, plus 4 senators or 3 senators sick, and the Democrats want actual, not virtual confirmation, and you've got only how many weeks left? I mean, what do you think? Can they get this through this fast without looking like they're shoveling it through?
No, they're going to look like they're shoveling it through, and they've made the decision because this is going to cost Susan Collins her Senate seat.
Correct.
And that may be the majority. That could be the majority seat. And McConnell made a calculation that it's worth it to lose the majority to get one more justice in, and there are no rules anymore. I mean, the problem is
true, isn't it, Frank? No rules. That's the thing.
And that's the problem, is that there's nothing that constrains them. And so each administration is worse than the administration before. And I'm hoping that Joe Biden will be different from that. But I know that many of the people who support him, and some of them support him to get rid of Trump, many of them support him. And then the moment that he gets elected, they're going to try to push him to the extreme. And it's going to be a real
it's going to be tough. I mean, one of my friends, Paul Tully, used to say there's campaigns and there's governing, all right? And he used to joke, I do campaigns, I don't do governing. He'd look at me. He said, people like you like governing. I said, well, occasionally I like getting things done, And, but there are people who campaign, and then you face the harsh reality of what it means to govern. And the fact that you may have 50 Democratic senators means you got, at least 40 something of them looking at a president when they shave in the morning. They're not all going to sign up on Team Biden. I think the reality is, and I'm a great fan, I've known Joe forever, because of his age, the campaign for the Democratic nomination for president, as well as the campaign for the Republican nomination for president, are going to begin, what would you say, the 5th of November?
No. It's going to begin at 11 p.m. on the 3rd of November.
I knew I'd get you.
And
11 p.m. Eastern.
Yes, exactly. They're not going to wait for the polls to close in California. They're going to be already pitching themselves.
It's going to be 8:05 Eastern, I think. I mean, I'll never forget in 1988. I knew who was running in 1992 by whom I was running the campaign in 88 by my first calls the next morning. I could see the calls coming in from various senators. Good morning, Susan. It wasn't your fault. And the new campaigns were beginning. And I think we're going to see that on both sides. Now, the hope obviously is that Biden can at least pull things together at a sort of cultural level. But who knows? What scared me most, can I ask you a question? I love asking Frank questions. What was it with Proud Boys? You and I we're going to do a show for Roger once because we both like to be honest and tell the truth. And what was it with Proud Boys? I mean, I'm a proud Jew, so Proud Boys was proud tough for me.
Yeah, I don't get it. It was such an easy layup for him, and most Republicans are not backing him up on that. And the fact that he would not just simply make a declaration that this organization and organizations like them are horrific. And that's why I don't defend him. And I was so happy to be able to say on Bloomberg yesterday that if Trump, I can't believe I'm doing this even here, but if Trump does not participate in 2 more debates, there's no way he can win. They're just too separate. The polling is moving in Joe Biden's favor every single day.
Okay, can you explain to everybody else, because I think I understand, but it'd be better coming from you. Why is it that you can say with such certainty today that the polling is in Biden's favor when I will mention names, when 2 of my favorite Democratic political types by the names of Shrum and Schoen, reassured me, comforted me. I'm a nervous Nelly Jewish mother. On election day, we're standing at the Kennedy School. It's early in the day. We're doing some duha. What's his name? My friend from Michigan. Morley Winograd, the chairman of the Michigan Democratic Party. I look at Morley, I say, any trouble in Michigan? No trouble, he says to me. I look at Shrum and Schoen. I'm nervous. I've written a book about Hillary. I know the secret anti-Hillary vote out there. I know people don't like Hillary. But I say to Shrum and Schoen, are you 125 bucks? Absolutely comfortable. I get in the car. I say to my son, I don't want to watch with anyone else. I don't think it's going to be good. I will meet you at home. I will be there at 5:01. If they haven't called Pennsylvania at 5:05, I will be drinking.
Hold on. What will you be drinking?
Scotch.
Okay. Now I know what you said.
Champagne.
So you're drinking scotch and you're smoking with the Supreme Court Chief Justice. That makes a lot of sense.
In my youth. Frank, why are these polls right and those polls were wrong? And Shrum and Schoen are pretty good. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. And I'll answer that. The first reason is that the actual polling on Election Day had Hillary Clinton up by 2.8%. She won by 2.1%. They were only off by 0.7%. They were wrong in the states, but they were correct nationally. That's number one. And people forget that because Trump is trying to get them to forget that. Second,
it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. That's not how Trump could have won by 5%. If he won the Electoral College, that makes him president. And Al Gore learned that the hard way back in 2000. And by the way, I will continue to answer your question, but I'm going to forget this. If the Democrats get the House, the Senate, and the White House, are they going to try? You know the answer to this, so please tell us. Are they going to try to get rid of the Electoral College?
I do not think they will succeed in getting rid of the Electoral College. And
But will they try?
It would be a fool's errand, which means probably yes.
I appreciate your candor.
Do you agree with me?
I think they're going to try to do everything. One of the questions that came across.
I think they're going to try to do a lot of things. But I think Bill Clinton learned very quickly when he tried to do remember, he was going to do gays in the military, sort of open up your administration with an easy issue, right?
Yeah.
And it hurt him badly. And I think Joe Biden is going to, whatever anybody else is going to try to do, there'll be a million bills introduced. One of the things I've learned for governing is you got to have basically three things on your list. And it's the pandemic, right? It's the economy, right? And I think it's going to be healthcare. But we can discuss the third. It could, and foreign policy and the Chinese and everything else. But 1 and 2 are the pandemic and the economy. They go hand in hand. We've got to restore confidence in government, at least to the extent of science. You don't have to believe that government can do taxes or welfare. You got to restore some confidence in science or we'll never get vaccinated. And then you and I will never get together.
Let's try. And by the way, for those of you who are not watching the comments, they officially canceled the October 15th debate.
But we knew that first.
We knew that this morning.
But you told me today at the top.
I want, and by the way, you're halfway off the screen, so I want to pull you back in.
I'm coming back. I was reading some of the comments because the cancellation of a debate in which people get to ask questions seems to me really I went through these debate negotiations and all of that, and the teams of the questioners and the one questioner and the reporters. People ask the best questions, right? Reporters go gotcha. People want to know about their mother-in-law.
Exactly. I want to know about that. And I'm going to come back because you and I are both going to do something that we never get to do on TV, but we're going to be able to do it here, which is we're going to call our own party out for some of the things that it says and does. Because I think that if we can be referees of decency,
I need more hate mail.
Well, I'm going to get the same too.
I know.
About your negotiations. So you led this in 1988 in the Bush-Dukakis debate. What can you tell us about that process? How hard is it to fight for your candidate? How hard is it to get the
can I
things that you
start
want
with a
done?
joke that you will love? So it's 3-3 going into the debate negotiations. It's negotiations like this that led to the formalization of the commission, because at that point in time, it was the two campaigns. So we arrive, I don't know if you know, of course, you know, James Baker,
Yeah.
who I respect more than probably anybody in politics. Anyway, it's at his office. He and I had dealings before. He greeted me warmly. He's sitting at the table with Lee Atwater, and I walk in on my side of the table, and I'm sitting with Paul Brontis and John Sasso. There's one empty chair, and all of a sudden, 10 minutes, we're having our coffee, juice, the children, walks in Roger Ailes. He looks around the room, and he says, "Oh my God, we're all here. Who's watching Quail?" I burst out laughing. Quayle being the then vice presidential nominee of the Republican Party. The joke being, in front of 3 Democrats, you're making fun of your party's nominee. Frank, we were down to the inches on the, risers, whether the platform, I remember Shrum insisting that the platform angle must not show any aspect, because we had a short candidate. How do you get a short candidate on a box without a riser showing? I have the 2 greatest media men, Shrum and Squire, in Democratic politics, playing camera angles, everything. The rooms we sit in, the size of the rooms, who gets which rooms, when we will move into the rooms. It's all negotiated. The only other funny story I'll tell you is that Lloyd Benson, who was a wonderful man, who was the Democratic nominee for vice president in 1988, and probably won a debate more clearly than anybody in the last 50 years. He looked at Dan Quayle. I must say I had heard the line before, but he looked at Dan Quayle, and when Dan Quayle compared himself to John Kennedy, he said, "Senator, I knew John Kennedy. John Kennedy was a friend of mine, and Senator, you're no John Kennedy." It was a great line. The place went nuts. We went across the street to see how we'd done, because in those days, we needed the Frank Luntz on the phone to tell us how we'd done. So we're sitting there. I'm sitting there myself, Sasso, Bill Clinton. There's a little group of us. What are the numbers going to be? And finally, we get the numbers. Well, who won the debate? 10-1 Benson. Who's most qualified to be president? 10-1 Benson. Who's most qualified among all 4 candidates to be president? 8-1 Benson. Put Benson against Bush, who wins? Benson. I finally say, how much did the damn ticket move? 1 point. So they don't vote for vice presidential debates, but I'm very curious that you found so many of your undecided voters last night did not like Kamala Harris.
So I've got and I need your help here, because that leads me to my next question, which I know people want an answer to. The undecided voters did not like her because of the facial expressions, because of how she was reacting to the vice president. They were annoyed with him for going too long virtually every time. And we've learned in the studies that we've done after every debate that voters hate it when you go over. And if you go over 2 times, 3, you can go over once or twice. He went over every single time, and I knew they hated it, but they disliked what Kamala Harris was doing even more.
Right.
So, but here's a but. So I did one of these Zoom calls yesterday, and it was only with women. There are 18 women on the call, and they loved her, and they thought she was great. Now, they were voting for Biden before, but they thought that she put Pence in his place. Go ahead.
No, I think you're absolutely right, Frank, because here's what was weird. Every woman, my Facebook crowd, my friends from politics, whatever, hot damn, great, all these emojis and this one and that one. Everybody loved Kamala. So then I pick up your stuff, all right? And I say to Kathy, let's take a look at what Frank got last night. And I'm looking at it, and it was absolutely clear to me that if you came in like in Kamala, if you wanted to see her stand up for womankind everywhere, stand up for Black women everywhere, she was there. And if anything, I think what she did accomplish was she energized progressives more than, Biden did in his let's call it flatter performance the week before. But if you didn't like her, okay, if you didn't come in with her, then it looked like every gendered stereotype of an aggressive, assertive, nasty woman was planted right on her. And that was what was striking to me. I've been teaching gender discrimination for years, and I recognize all those adjectives. That's what we say.
There's a but there, which is, I knew, so I'm watching their reactions because we're doing it on a Zoom call, and because we're doing a chat as they're watching the debate. For the first time, I can actually get their reactions. When I've done this, I've been doing this since 1996. I've always had to wait till the debate is over for me to jump in there and say, what did you think?
Right.
This time, I was able to track it as it was happening. And they're the ones who were saying to me, why is she making faces? And then the second time.
Faces is terrible. I learned early on television, the most important lesson I teach young people is always assume it's a split camera. So don't look nasty or angry, okay? No matter how angry you are at what they're saying, smile. If you want to smile and go like this, it's okay. But the audience is watching you, and nobody likes having an angry person in their room, okay?
Let's do this.
When you and I disagree, I always smile, all right? And I go, that's Frank. And nobody says that mean bitch. They all say, oh, she likes Frank, right? She disagrees, but she likes him. And I don't think he was particularly likable last night, Mike Pence. I just think that a woman Donald Trump makes faces galore, all right? But women, if I make faces, I'm going to be in deep trouble on those conservative websites where they're going to say, are Democrats ugly? Woo, look at her.
So do me a favor. Let's say that the senator is absolutely convinced that the vice president just said something factually untrue and did it a second time and did it a third time. I can't believe I get to do this. This is like a privilege for me. What expression should she have used? Do it for us. Show us.
There you go again.
That's the language. And then,
there you go again, Mr. Vice President. If anybody doesn't know, that's the line that won Ronald Reagan the one presidential debate in 1980. I happened to be in Florida I was on loan for Jimmy Carter. And Carter was going on and on and on about every supposedly stupid thing Ronald Reagan had ever said. Trees cause pollution. And rather than try to answer each one again, he put a smiling expression on and he just said, there you go again. And people liked him. All right? There you go again, Mr. Vice President. Didn't we just do this? And that's a nice thing to say. Whereas getting angry at people on television almost always fails. And that's why the most experienced performer of our decade, of our lifetimes, Donald Trump, lost it. What was going on Tuesday night? he's a good performer on TV, if nothing else.
How come Biden didn't do that to him? Didn't some a person who schooled the senator, the vice president, in debate? Why didn't he use Ronald Reagan's line?
Why didn't Biden use it?
Yeah,
I don't know. I kept waiting for it. I guess I wasn't there. It's just the perfect line for saying, let's move on. I don't think anything could have stopped Trump. And I think Biden's goal in that debate was a little bit like Reagan's goal in that Jimmy Carter debate. Everybody came in not liking Carter, okay? I was in Florida and I was running election day because I was a Kennedy person and the Kennedy people didn't even trust the Carter people. So I'm 26 years old. Yes, I've moved 19,000 people to the polls. That's what I'm good at. But I mean, Florida was torn apart. But still, people were worried about Reagan. Is he a risk? And all he had to do was stand on that stage, get off a few good lines, and not appear to be a risk. And the floor fell under Carter. I do think that Biden wasn't the least bit scary the other night. I mean, if you were watching that debate and you were uncertain, you tell me, Biden seemed pretty safe, didn't he? I mean, they tried to push him on court packing. He doesn't go there. Pushed him on Big Green Deal. He says, I'm the Democratic Party. Biden is not a radical. He's not far left. Biden has always been a moderate. And I think, at least in the early days of his presidency, he's going to be a moderate president. And that's what the country needs.
Was he right or wrong to tell the president to shut up?
Oh, man, of course he was. But what else are you going to do when the man won't shut up? I would have said the same thing, wouldn't you? I mean, come on. All right? He was also wrong to call him a clown, okay? But he was a clown. I mean, this was an insult to the American. You know, I never talk about the American people, but this was an insult. I mean, I sat there watching my television, getting, and I had my kids with me. It's an important moment and all that. It wasn't an important moment. It was a disgrace. And whichever side you're on, the only saving grace I figure is that debates show character, right? However people handle it, it shows something about their character. Looking at a watch told us something about George Bush, unfortunately. God, are you so bored having to answer our questions for a whole hour, all right? That debate probably told us more about Donald Trump than any debate in history has ever revealed about a candidate. He was unfiltered, unchecked, unbridled by the truth, and he was utterly terrifying, really terrifying. And so I think, Frank, I may be wrong, but I think the next few weeks are going to be endless dismembering of when did he actually know he had COVID and who did he actually, infect? And is he really still contagious? And why were they playing games with the oxygen? I mean, all we wanted, I think most Americans, was the truth about his condition. No games, not he was on the oxygen, but not off the oxygen, but that on. Just tell us the truth. And we'll all pray for him because nobody wants anybody to suffer from this horrible illness.
So we got about 5 minutes left. Is there anything that you've ever advised a candidate to say that when they said it, we're being candid here, you thought, I can't believe I actually gave that advice? Is there anything that you would like to pull back that you wish you had not suggested? Yes.
No, there's a lot of things I would have. I mean, how do I put this? There are lines I gave that didn't come out, right? I think I memorized both Bill Clinton and I memorized the answer to the Willie Horton question until we were blue in the face, right? And when it came, I said, the first lines better be, I know what it's like to be a victim of crime. And when that wasn't the first line, my phone rang. And it was Bill Clinton going, what's going on? And I said, I don't know. People make mistakes, you know. I walked out to the stage to meet Michael Dukakis when he gave the worst debate performance of his life that cost him the presidency. And he looked at me and he apologized to me. And he said, I'm sorry, I blew it. And I hugged him and I said, you don't ever have to be sorry to me. We came a long way, right?
So he knew
who gets that far.
So he knew it. He knew it at that moment that he had done.
He knew it when it happened. He knew it, you know. When a candidate wins the debate, hundreds of people greet him on the back. When he doesn't win, he walks out the back and there's me. And he looked at me and he said, I'm sorry, I blew it. And I hugged him. And I said, don't be sorry to me. We came a long way. Sure, we both knew it. And we had to carry on because we carried on for the rest of the ticket. And we carried on to avoid dragging the ticket down. We pulled our base up. We spent the money we needed to. And at least we did it with dignity. And I hope Donald Trump does too.
Yeah, I would not, honestly, I would not be confident. Yeah, don't be confident on that. Okay, Lawrence Bender, I'm glad that he jumped on this call. I've been trying to get him to do these forever. And he knows his stuff better than anyone in the town that you and I are both in right now. So his question is, Florida's neck and neck. Biden has got a 2-point lead there. If Trump wins, he still has a path to the White House. I don't think so. I really don't think so. But
I think Biden can win Florida.
So
what do you think?
Please advise both candidates. In fact, I'll advise Biden. You advise Trump, but you got to go first.
Oh, no, because I got Biden in South Florida. I've done Florida. Where are you going? I got Biden with the Jews, the New Yorkers, South Florida, and the pandemic. Seniors, Social Security, scare the living day out of them. What are you going to do for Trump?
For Trump, I'm going to send him I'm going to actually have him visit the Panhandle and Northern Florida. I'm going to send him to Jacksonville because it's the most Republican of all the cities there. And I've got to gin up turnout. That's going to be critical in Northern Florida. I'm not sending him in the South and keeping him out of there.
Right.
I might actually put him on a bus or train or something because I would want him to make 3 stops. I'd want him to start in Jacksonville, go to Orlando, and then go to Tampa because they all have independent newspapers. They've got different TV stations, and it's close enough that you can get up and get down really quickly. They're 15-minute flights on Air Force One. There are airports that can handle it. And I'm doing 3 rallies in Florida because it is so important. And my focal point.
Those rallies. I can only tell you, and I love Lawrence, he'll enjoy this. My daughter has signed up with an online group. It's Call Your Zadie's, all right? It's Jewish kids from all over the country in their teens, 20s, and 30s who are calling senior Jews their Zadies and Boobies in South Florida. I have never seen a group turn out like they turn out in Dade County. I had people, I swear to God, I was sending ambulances to get them to the polls. I have never seen a group more motivated right now than seniors who are very scared and who have deserted Trump. At least that's what I've seen. Do you agree?
Here's what's very tough for them. That they look at the peace agreement between Israel and Bahrain and the UAE, first one in 27 years. They look at the fact that he's the first president to actually move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. They looked at the cooperation between the Israeli security forces and the American security forces, that Trump has done more for Israel than any other president.
The Proud Boys, My daughter sent the video, 10 Things I Hate About Jews.
Thought, yeah,
That's
it's awful.
where he's losing him. And for the life of me, I just don't understand it. That and all this garbage coming out about how he talks garbage about Americans. A president of the United States shouldn't talk garbage about ethnic groups in this country. I mean, it's just garbage.
So let's do this. We got 90 seconds left. Susan, I'm going to give you the final word.
No, don't.
But tell us something positive. Tell us the language that they need to use or the strategy they need to use. I do believe that Joe Biden wins. What does he need to say to the Trump people, the Trump voter, those people who felt ignored and forgotten, so that they're still going to be angry about the result? But how do you start to heal those wounds with the general public? What would you tell them to say?
It's an old line, and it's not the right line, but it's "Come home, America." Remember that line?
Yes.
It's an old one, but that's the idea. Come home, America. You know, the best America is yet to come, and the only way we're going to get there is together.
Well, Susan, this has been awesome. And I will let you know that we
need to have fun with you, Frank, anytime. Tell me.
And everyone say that, by the way.
But tell me the answer to my question.
Go ahead.
What's the Electoral College vote?
At this point, it's Joe Biden.
No, not at this point. I don't want a picture of today. I want a prediction. You know, the difference between polls are photographs of today, right? A prediction is what you're seeing given the forces at about 8 o'clock Eastern.
I'm going to go later than that because it's going to take a lot longer to count these ballots. And I think we're going to go on for a week. And they got to get it done quickly because I'm leaving for London the Sunday after the election.
Well, in that case, that is a drop-dead time.
So I'm going to say that Joe Biden is going to, at this point, and I say this off the record, and you're going to put this out.
And ask putting it out.
No,
I'm just going to tell people.
I want to answer your question. I believe that Biden's going to have that. If Donald Trump had a decisive win in 2016, I can only answer it with, at this point, Joe Biden is headed for the same win in 2020 that Donald Trump had in 2016. And now he's only given himself one debate to change the course of history. And I don't think he can do it in one debate. I think he's made a fatal, fundamental error. Susan Estrich, you're amazing. You and I need to do this more often. This is the way this is how it's supposed to work. This is the politics that it's supposed to be.
I know. You know, the most interesting thing is not where you disagree, but where you agree. But get me a TV station that believes that.
Well, hopefully we'll find one. Hopefully it's one of the ones that exist now, and if not, we'll create our own. Susan Estrich, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Everybody, thank you for joining us, and we are done.